What's up, everybody? It's Scotty with Flat Track Flashback. And like we said, we were going to have another video coming out shortly, and it was going to be about the Mission Food CTR Flat Track Series Peoria Classic that took place at Peoria Speedway. Not the TT, but that bank short track there in Peoria, Illinois. And unfortunately, as has been a theme with this series all year long, Mother Nature played a part. And this time, Mother Nature got her first, I guess, official victory on the weekend with the series. Saturday's racing unfortunately was washed out. A lot of weather moving through the area, a lot of weather in the Midwest all weekend long. I mean, we encountered issues with it on some of our broadcasts and had some shows canceled on the Dirt Vision side of things. And unfortunately, the second day of the Peoria Classic was washed out, but that classic held up to its name on Friday night. We had some incredible racing among some of the top riders in the country, the amateur riders that were in attendance. A lot of really, really fast riders. Your title contenders were all there, and we got to see some really, really fun racing there at Peoria Speedway. And with that second day washed out, 2 races remain at Mid-Carolina Speedway. There's a few of these championships that were clinched, and some of them that are just getting even more dramatic as we head to the conclusion of this inaugural season for the Mission Food CTR Flat Track Series. So yeah, let's dive into it and look back at some of the action that took place there in Peoria. So as I was trying to put together the Cycle News article for this race, I wanted to sort of think about the distances that a lot of these kids travel to compete at these races and the sacrifices that they make to chase these flat track dreams and to chase these championships in this series. And Ryder Bitz-Hay and Bodie Page, they come from a long way away. And when you look at Rohnert Park, California, and Queensland, Australia, a Google search shows that as the crow flies, I believe is the term, that straight line path, it's over 7,000 miles between those two hometowns and those home states, lands, whatever. But those two riders, Bodie and Ryder, they were separated by barely a foot at times. Not 7,000 miles, barely even a foot at times on the track. And they had some great back and forth racing going on. They were really on each other's heels almost the entire day there at Peoria, and really had that track figured out. Bodie Page and Ryder Bitz-Hay just put on a really good performance for the dominant riders in those premier amateur classes, and that's where we're going to start off. We're going to start off on the big bikes. We're going to look at your 450 Open, your Pro-Am class, your 250 Amateur, starting with those things before we work on down the rest of the field. That 450 Amateur race, that was the closest those two had as a margin of victory all race long, or all day long. Off the start, 3 wide down the back straightaway between Bitz-Hay, Page, and Cody Kent, who got a really good start and was up in the mix as well. Bodie cuts through the middle, gets to the lead, and is able to sort of set the pace there. But behind those 3 riders, an absolute hornet's nest, pandemonium from about 4th on back to maybe 10th, 8th, whatever. Riders going all over the place. And some very exciting racing back there, but the top 3 really sort of set the tone and were pulling away. And it looks like Bodie was going to be able to just kind of manage it, bring it home, but Ryder was keeping the pressure on him every single lap. And then coming out of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag, a little mistake by Bodie Page, and Bitz-Hay gets the drive, but not quite enough of a straightaway there at Peoria for him to make the move. 0.054 seconds was all that separated them in that first battle for those two in that 450 amateur class. And then you move on into the Open Amateur class later in the night, and Bitz-Hay's looking for a little redemption, even up their head-to-head battle. And he does. He gets the whole shot. Page doesn't get as good of a start. He has to fight back, gets under Braxton Reagan going into turns 3 and 4. And then Cody Mishy just rolling the outside. Throughout the day, it seemed like the outside in 1 and 2 was a little more reliable than the outside in 3 and 4. It seemed like you really had to keep it tight in 3 and 4, but Cody Mishy able to make it happen there in this Open Amateur class, get up to 3rd, start getting in the mix with the leaders, and Mishy battling with Page sort of gave Bitz-Hay a little bit of a distraction for those two and allowed him to pull out a little bit of a lead. Mishy was able to pull even with Page at times coming off of 2, but not able to clear him coming off of turn 4. At times during this race, it looked like Bitz-Hay maybe had a little more motor than Page on the straightaways. What little bit is there, but through the closing laps, Page really started to reel him in. He just kind of ran out of time there. And Ryder Bitz-Hay is able to take the victory in the Open Amateur class and even up the score 1-1 with Bodie Page as we head into the final race of the night, which would be the Pro-Am main event. In this Pro-Am main event, you had riders like William Cato who were contesting the vet classes, riders like Braxton Reagan, who was on the 250 during the day. And then you've got Bodie Page, Bitz-Hay, and the rest. Nice little combination of riders to take the stage there at the end of the night. And thanks to some generous donors on the evening, these kids got to race for a little extra cash on the night. Not even just the kids. Like I said, Cato coming in from the 30-plus class. And Bodie Page gets out front early, leads over Cato in this race, and Ryder Bitz-Hay was buried here. He was probably as far back as 7th at one point, but he started making that higher line work, was passing almost a rider a lap during this race. And 10 laps, you had to make things happen quick. But in this particular instance, Bodie Page here in the rubber match, he gets out ahead and sort of gets to avoid all the chaos that was going on behind him. And the last lap got dicey. Bitz-Hay's able to get a run around the outside of William Cato out of turns 2. Going into 3 and 4, Cato's front tire touches the back tire of Bitz-Hay. It stands him up a little bit. Dylan Durrell finds the gap almost out of nowhere and is able to steal 3rd place there on the final lap and get on the podium to close out the night in Peoria. And these races went by quick, but there was no shortage of battles throughout the field. Even if the leader was able to pull a slight gap, there was all sorts of slicing behind him and riders making moves. Really impressed with the racetrack, which looked like it was going to be kind of grooved up in one line, and some of the smaller bikes were able to get too wide. Some of these, bigger bikes, they were able to put on a really good show and make passes around the outside, make some slide job moves. Bummed that they didn't get up on the as high up on the track throughout the night as we've seen there in the past. Some of the vet riders did. We'll touch on that in a second. But man, some great racing from these riders, and we talked about Bodie Page and Bitz-Hay being close. They were never separated by more than 0.7 of a second at the finish line in any of these races. So great performance by them. And I want to look at some of the points now in these bigger displacement classes. Looking at 450 amateur right now, you've got a dogfight coming into the final race at final couple races at Mid-Carolina. Aiden Savage currently leads that championship, but only by 5 points over Ryder Bitz-Hay. And now Bodie Page just sits 11 points back, with Cody Michie only 18 back. Now we'll see who all is able to make the trek down to Mid-Carolina in September, but that is going to be a very spicy battle. And Charlie Jakes isn't too far back either. They're in 5th. This class is going to see some shakeups, I feel like, there at Mid-Carolina. Aiden Savage has had a couple of victories, but he's also had a couple of mid-pack finishes, which has kept him from being able to really stretch out in that 450 amateur class. But there's just so much parity in these amateur classes. And then you go into the open amateur class, which got a lot tighter on the weekend due to the injury that Jack Brooks sustained at Amateur Nationals. And we're still wishing Jack all the best in his recovery. Hopefully he'll be able to come down to Mid-Carolina in September and quest for this championship. But as you see, he only leads Brody Hansen by 8 points. Dylan Durrell sits 19 back, and then Savage, Page, and Michie round out the top 5. Page and Michie tied there. This class, I mean, the podium from Peoria, all 3 of those riders that were on the box in the open amateur class in Peoria, they're all 30 or more points behind in the championship for that class. And yeah, a couple of these riders have missed events or missed main events, but yeah, just you never know what to expect. There's not been one real dominant rider. We've seen dominant days, but as far as putting together the full series, nobody's been able to really do that and stretch out in these particular classes in the championship. And then when we go into the 250 amateur class, before we go into those points, we got to talk about that race. And all year long, other than Harpster, it's been Ryder Bitz-Hay versus Braxton Reagan, and they would have another chapter in their rivalry at Peoria. Braxton looking to defend his home turf, looking to defend Illinois, and Bitz-Hay wanting to get his 3rd win on the season, break the tie. They came into Peoria tied on wins, tied on points. And on this night, it would be Bitz-Hay who would prevail. Reagan was able to get around the outside and sort of keep pace with him, but just couldn't clear him. And then, earlier in the race, toward the midway point, he ends up falling back to 3rd behind Bane Nance, and then rebounds, gets back around Nance, and is able to chase down Bitz-Hay. There's a moment here in the closing stages of that 250 amateur main event. Reagan trying to square up turns 3 and 4 and get a better drive off the corner, but just again, the straightaway's not long enough. He wasn't close enough at that particular time. Bitz-Hay able to hold on by less than 0.2 of a second to get that 250 amateur win and break the tie. He now leads that championship battle by just 5 points over Reagan as they head to Mid-Carolina. But Braxton Reagan's burned some laps at Mid-Carolina. At the end of last year at the Southeast Flat Track finale, and this year at their opener, he was able to get some track experience there and has got some laps under his belt, which could pay off as he looks to clinch the championship or take it from Bitz-Hay there on the last race of the season. Bane Nance sits 3rd in those points, then Joshua Pearson, Jed 5 rounding out the top 5 there. But those 2 are going to come down to the final laps in Nice, South Carolina, and we can't wait. Now, the open novice class was one of might have been the race of the night. A lot of moving and shaking there. Riders coming through the pack, making a lot of passes. Ben Widener had the early lead over Paul Malone, but Audie Snelson was working his way through the field and was able to get under Widener in turns 3 and 4. Widener left the door open and gave Snelson the chance to make the pass, and he pounced and was able to take the lead there later in the race and pull away and pick up his first victory of the season in the novice class, and then Widener also, Jackson Settle coming through the field. Widener leaves the door open again, coming off a turn 4 to the checkered flag, and Jackson Settle gets by him just barely at the finish line to finish second there. And this is another class that's got a really tight points battle heading into Mid-Carolina. Currently, Ryan Barber has the points lead over Jerry Ferrara, but Jackson Settle right there, 3 points separating them. Now, what's crucial for Barber is that he's been really fast at Mid-Carolina in the past. He's got laps there. He's been fighting for victories in amateur events there during the Southeast Series races. So maybe some track knowledge again could pay off for him to be able to clinch this novice championship. But that's been a fun little class. Ferrara put together some really good rides as well. I always have to see who makes the trek down to South Carolina, and hopefully we get to see all 3 of these riders duke it out for that novice championship. Now the hooligans, once again, a low rider count for the hooligan class on the night. It ended up being DJ Slosser holding off Jeremy DeReuter during that race. I believe they only had 4 riders entered. I think only 3 of them came out to race that final. Sort of a bummer how the hooligan class a couple years ago, we had so many heat races and so many riders that at a Winter Throwdown, and now it's just really sort of phased out. I mean, we still get a handful of them show up at the V-Twins events at American Flat Track, but as far as the hooligan races for the CTR events, kind of a bummer. Seemed like quite a bit were in Wauseon, though, for that race, and maybe that was what took some of our hooligan riders away from Peoria on the weekend. But DJ Slosser gets the victory there, and then Kyle Snyder would take home the victory in the vintage class. So that'll sort of wrap up the big bikes. Now we still have to talk about our vet riders, and sure, why don't we dive into that now? Speaking of Kyle Snyder, he had quite the little battle with William Cato in the 30-plus class at Peoria. Kyle looking to pick up another victory on the season on that beta. He got the whole shot both times. This race would get red flagged, unfortunately. They had to do a restart. And Snyder able to get the better of William Cato early on, but Cato makes the pass around the outside and gets into the lead. First time we've gotten to see him, I believe, since Winter Throwdown, where he swept the weekend down there. But Cato gets into the lead, able to pull away from Snyder, but with the rain out again on Saturday, Snyder's able to secure enough points on the night to where he gets to be the 30-plus champion in the class. So congrats to Kyle. He gets a vintage win on the night and gets to clinch the 30-plus championship for the series. Moving into the 40-plus class, Greg Boyle able to take home the victory. He had a little early battle with Jeremy DeReuter, but DeReuter would not finish this race. Boyle able to pull away and take home the victory, and he too would secure enough points to claim a championship for the 40-plus class. So Greg Boyle, the 40-plus champion, and as he's done so many times this year, picking up multiple victories, Davey Durrell would not be denied in the 50-plus or the 60-plus classes. Davey has clinched the 60-plus championship, but hasn't quite wrapped up the 50-plus crown yet. The 50-plus class, Davey gave us a nice little glimpse of what the High Line at Peoria is like. Just before that race, they'd put some water on the track above the groove and try to get the racing line a little higher up, and Davey was not afraid to test it out. He was up there riding up on the banking and getting in the darker dirt, staying off the groove, and rolling around that beautiful short track. And Davey just, again, picking up another couple of wins on the year. He and Cruz Texter, I believe, might be either tied or one of them. They feel like the winningest riders in the Mission Foods CTR Flat Track Series on the year. So congrats to Davey for picking up another couple of victories and clinching a championship there in the 60-plus class. I fully expect Davey to still be at Mid-Carolina and maybe I hate to say pad the stats, but he's just so good. He's such a solid rider. He could still compete, I think, with some of these pro classes or these top level amateurs. Son Dylan and Camlin in the house. Camlin was running the novice in the 250 on the weekend, and Dylan, like we said, got that podium, and he's still in the hunt for that Open Amateur Championship. So it could be an exciting weekend for the Durrells in Mid Carolina in September. All right, let's wrap it up. We got the youth classes now, and going to lead off with, the first race that started the night, the 50cc air-cooled class, which saw William Cato take the lead from Cruz Texter early on and really pull away, and Cato able to take home a victory. So we got William Cato Sr. picking up a victory in the 30-plus class, William Cato Jr. taking a win in the 50cc air-cooled class. Good night for the Cato family there. Cruz Texter would end up falling into a battle for second place with Cooper Mendiola. And Cooper would pass him on the racetrack, but unfortunately for Cooper, post-race inspection, he would be disqualified, and that would bump Cruz up to second place. And whether he finished second or third on the night, With the cancellation of Saturday's show, Cruz has enough points to be crowned champion in the 50cc air-cooled class. He's looked so good on that Honda all year, winning the opening rounds and having those fun battles with Cooper there and Harpster. So Cruz has put together a really strong ride on the 50cc. He kept his perfect season alive in the 50cc chain class. So picks up a perfect 7 for 7, but because of consistent runs by the riders behind him, has not officially clinched that class. If he decides he doesn't want to race Mid-Carolina in a 50cc, there's still an opening where somebody could take that championship. But Cruz is probably going to want to keep that perfect season going. Already 7 for 7. I'm sure he'd love to go 9 for 9. But the big sort of feather in his cap for the night was the battle that Cruz and Odin Music had in the 65cc class. And Odin was side by side with him at times, and it looked like they were going to be waging war all race long, and they kind of were. The race got stopped, had to be restarted due to a red flag. Rider would be okay. When they restarted, Cruz seemed to adjust his line a little bit, not leaving Odin as much room on the higher part of that groove to get that momentum built up around the outside. And then Cruz was able to navigate lap traffic a little bit better than Odin Music was on the night. Cruz able to come home with another victory, his second of the season in the 65cc class. And that victory is big because it trims Odin Music's lead to single digits as they head to Mid-Carolina. So Odin Music still leading the 65cc class over Cruz Texture, with Ziegenbach sitting in third, and behind them, Jackson Joyner, who won the first few races of the year, but has decided to focus on the 85cc class. And currently, Ella Nickens brings up the top 5 in points. Ella suffering an injury at Amateur Nationals as well. We wish her all the best in a speedy recovery, and we can look forward to seeing her back on the track as well. Ella's brother, Jaden, he had quite the day at Peoria, and it was vital. It was crucial performances to keep him in the championship. In the Super Mini class, Wesley Settle was shot out of a cannon early on, took the whole shot, was leading this race, and Jaden Nickens making a big-time move, going fourth to second there early on, getting around Lucy Heaton, getting around Jackson Joyner, the two competitors that were ahead of him in the points, and he ran down Settle and made just a really daring move coming off of turn 2, gets between Settle and a lap rider, diving into turns 3 and 4, and then would pull out to a healthy lead, and Jaden Nickens would take home the victory in the Super Mini class over Settle and Heaton and Joyner. And then fast forward to the 85cc class, Jaden makes things a little bit easier on himself, gets a better start, and leads this race start to finish, picking up a victory in the 85cc class. Same top 4, but the rest of the podium was hotly contested. Lucy Heaton, Jackson Joyner, and Oliver Hartley battling with Brentley Kriminger as well. Those 4 riders had quite the little battle for that final step on the podium. Lucy would end up holding on to that spot over Jackson Joyner, but it looked like Oliver Hartley was going to steal fourth from Joyner on the last lap, just couldn't quite get the drive he needed to make that extra pass. But these championships especially, they've been so exciting all year, and they are going to come down to the wire as well. Look how tight these battles are. First, the 85cc class. Jackson Joyner just a 1-point lead over Jaden Nickens, and Lucy Heaton sits just 10 points back. And you can't count out Wesley Settle either. Yeah, he's going to need a lot of help, sitting 43 points back, but he's so fast. He's got that number 1 in for a reason. Odin Music bringing up the top 5 there in the 85cc class. But just the 10 points separating those front 3. And then when you flip over to the Super Mini class, Lucy's performance there in Peoria, it gives her the lead in the Super Mini Championship right now by 2 points over Jackson Joyner. And look out, because Jaden Nickens building that momentum, and he only sits 11 points back in the Super Mini class. And then here it's interesting because Wesley Settle in this class only 33 points back. So a lot of things could shake up there at Mid-Carolina. We see Ellen Nickens rounding out the top 5 currently in those points. Jaden has got plenty of laps at Mid-Carolina. He's run those Southeast races, picked up victories on that track. So he's going to have a lot of experience coming in that maybe Lucy and Jackson Joyner won't, but expect them to be going at it tooth and nail for those championships. I am excited to see how these classes come to a close when the series wraps up for the year, and just an awesome inaugural season for this series. And yeah, they've been dealt a rough card with weather, but man, we've seen so many of these riders really make a name for themselves and start to build their reputation here in the flat track scene here stateside. A huge thank you to every one of the riders that's contested this, and every sponsor that's been involved, all the people that have helped make this series happen. It's so fun to see this premier level of amateur flat track racing. And hey, the expert classes, just because they weren't able to contest in Peoria doesn't mean those championships are over and done with either. Currently, Briar Bauman has a 20-point lead in the open expert class over the 2 Turner racing bikes of Trevor Bruner and Trent Lowe. And Bruner's got a 24-point lead over Chad Coase in the Premier Expert class with Justin Jones, Briar Baum, and Jared Vanderkoy bringing up the top 5 there. But, hey, the pros won't have a conflict. Coming into Mid-Carolina, the last race of the AFT season is there at Lake Ozark on September 13th. So the weekend after, they want to keep getting some money and getting to keep that healthy competition going. They can come on down to Mid-Carolina. And we've seen Bruner look really, really fast there. Trent Lowe as well. Chad Coase has put in some good rides there at Mid-Carolina. So excited to see how these all these championships come to a close, like I said. And thank you guys so much for supporting the series. Thank you so much for supporting this channel and giving just a anxiety-riddled, borderline nervous breakdown flat track fan a chance to talk about the sport that he loves. So thank you guys for putting up with me for another video, and thank you for just your support of the sport as a whole. Thank you to every rider, every family member, every sponsor, every fan that makes the sport such a beautiful community and family. We love you guys so much. Please make sure you're supporting the podcast, the YouTube channels, the social channels, everybody that's involved in helping build up the sport and talk about it and showcase it in all of its glory. Thank you guys for supporting those channels. If you want to, keep up with what we got going on here and you're not already subscribed, we'd love it if you could. We appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares. We appreciate the dislikes. It's all good. I appreciate you guys at least giving us a chance, even if you're not a fan of what we're doing here. Thank you so much for at least giving us a shot. If you want to contact me, the best way to do it probably through Instagram or email. We're at Flat Track Flashback on Instagram, and the email address, flattrackflashback@gmail.com. Don't really know what next week's going to look like, if we're going to have a video come out or if we're just going to wait till see what happens at Sturgis and kind of play catch up from that point. There's 3 races going on out there, so we know the AFT points are going to shake up. But hey, until next time, thank you guys so much for checking us out, and we'll talk to you soon. Love you. Take care.